I said, the question that I want to ask you is, do you, first of all, do you feel like black men specifically are being feminized in society? And then two, do you think there's an agenda behind that if you do think that's the case, or do you think that's just kind of the natural progression of things?
To answer your question, what that Lloyd Jamar interview was a few years back, but to answer your question, the one thing that I believe totally is that it's not natural. Like I don't think it's a natural evolution for men to start behaving in typical what we would consider feminine. I don't think that's natural at all. It's in an agenda. That's a very loaded question. I would say yes, maybe it is an agenda when you start getting into data about these big corporations putting things in the food and beverages that they know literally turns testosterone into estrogen. I feel like that has to be an agenda. Um, but secondly, I just think it's also some of this shit is kind of like what you expect. And what I mean by that is like when people get into the clothes that people wear. Well, look, this is a lot of major designers are homosexual men. So it's kind of like, well, what do you expect them to design their clothes for? Like at some point, it has to be on the clothes buyer because you're still picking and choosing what clothes that you want to put on. There's always been skinny jeans. I've seen skaters wear skin tight jeans since I was 8 years old. So I don't want to act like this is a new thing. This is not new. This is just choices that, if you want to be honest, comes down to the feminization of men. And I'm gonna take it a step further, not just because of what they wear and so on and so forth, because a lot of men aren't leaders. And you're listening to what celebrities tell you to wear, and that's what you're choosing to wear. To me, that's feminine. That you can't stand up and make your own choices based off your own moral character. That is an issue to me. Now, I can go into a myriad of things that absolutely are leading to the feminization of men. Maybe in the 80s, the lack of fathers in the household. I'll tell you something else that doesn't help is the women that constantly bash men. If you're a little boy and you're growing up in a house full of women and a family full of women that do nothing but talk negatively about being a man, would you want to be a man? If the women that you love don't think highly of men at all, would you want to be that? Okay, boom. Everything is about polarity. As women become more masculine, I don't think women can have it both ways. You can't say that I'm going to be empowered and I'm going to become more masculine and I just expect men to become double masculine. Well, some men are going to become feminine. It's just the innate balance of polarity. Like as one thing goes in another direction, the sliding scale is going to go in the other direction to create balance. Some men are going to become feminine. At the end of the day, as well, on top of that, it's like it's a mind state thing. Like it's so tough when to me, and this is a personal opinion, obviously, masculinity is being attacked. So if you're a weaker minded person, you might become more feminine in how you behave. You might become more passive in how you behave. One thing that I saw on the internet that I thought was very well said is that, hey man, kids don't need two mothers. They need a mother and a father. A father's role in parenting was never the same as mothers. So women trying to make men become a second mom is out of control because women don't know what it takes to raise a man. And it's like, yes, like masculinity itself is being attacked. So of course, some people are going to respond and fold and become more feminine because they're attacking masculinity on every level, on the way you think, on the way you dress, on everything. They're making it seem like it's a bad thing. So, yes, to answer your question, absolutely, masculinity is being attacked. And to go even further about black men, yes, I think for sure, because black men are typically among the races what they would consider having the most masculine traits. And they have put an agenda with our black women, and they put an agenda on our black men. And it's kind of working. Like the men are becoming a little softer, a little more feminine. But the thing is, I thought women wanted that. So it's kind of confusing to me. Like the same women that say this are complaining about men being soft. Well, you won't allow a man to be a man. So what do you really want? But the agenda, I kind of, if you had to put, like, make me make a decision one way or the other, I would say it probably is an agenda to feminize men, and particularly the black man. I would say yes.
Okay. I just want to touch on it real briefly, and then Flaw, I'm gonna, definitely get your thoughts on it. But from my perspective, it's sort of it's one of those things. And when I say like evolution or the natural way that things are going, I'm not necessarily putting a moral judgment on that, whether that's positive or negative. I just mean environment causing something to change. So in that sense, like you stated, in the 80s, a lot of, the fathers getting locked up, things like that. So that led mothers to have to take on more strong roles, than they traditionally had to in the past, which is one of those evolutionary things. It's like, it's a side effect that happens. Now, what you're talking about happens because there still needs to be that balance. If the women are becoming more masculine, then the men are going to become more feminine. I don't necessarily know if it's an agenda per se, as far as like, when I say agenda, I guess I mean like they make it seem like by showing certain things on TV or whatever that they're pushing it to make people want to be this way. I don't know if it's that or if they're just exposing like, hey, this exists. You know what I mean? So I don't know agenda in that sense necessarily if I go that far with it. But as far as the systemic agenda that created this, what we see, I think that part is very much true.
Absolutely.